Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. We're here to talk about our rankings at each and every position, and today it's quarterback top 12 rankings, help you prepare for draft day. We've already gone over running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, so catch those videos as well when you're done with this. Chris, before we get into it, because I have a feeling our top 5 guys aren't going to be that different, I just want to ask and get your feeling, are you the type of fantasy player that you want to secure that quarterback early and get an elite passer, right? Somebody who could be a league winner. Or do you play the late round quarterback game? Because a lot of these league winners actually wind up being those mid to late round guys. So do you prefer one of these top 5 guys, or are you good waiting?
I'm definitely good waiting. I mean, obviously it depends on the value you're getting. If one of these top 5 guys falls far enough, I'll obviously jump and grab one of them. But I mean, when we look at these quarterback rankings today, you're probably going to see there's plenty of guys to like, outside of these top 5 guys. So I'm totally fine waiting.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second, but yeah, I'm with you there. So our number 1 quarterback, it's going to surprise. No, it's not. It's Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so we got Mahomes number 1, right? There's no reason not to. Number 2, well, you got Josh Allen, who was that league winner last year. I'm actually going Lamar Jackson. I think there's going to be a big bounce back from him. I mean, they actually added weapons. He actually has some receivers now, more legit receivers. You've never been a big Hollywood fan, and that's fine. I love Rashad Bateman. I think he's going to help out. Look, he's not going to maybe do a lot himself for fantasy because he's tied to, the Ravens offense. But I like the fact that Lamar Jackson now has better options, and he still has that rushing floor. You have him down at 4. That's not low. But again, you're still betting that Allen's going to do what he did last year, and you got Kyler Murray over him. So you don't think Lamar, you think we're going to see more Lamar like what we saw in 2020 or 2019?
In between. I mean, it's hard to say he's going to, have an MVP type season again. But yeah, I don't think he'll be, I don't want to say as bad as he was last year because he was still very good. I think he'll be somewhere in between. It's just when you look at, especially Kyler Murray, if it wasn't for that, mid-season stretch where he had that shoulder injury, he probably would have been the top scoring fantasy QB last year. And Josh Allen was the top scoring fantasy QB last year. So I can't put those guys ahead of Patrick Mahomes because just look what, Mahomes has been, I think, a top 8 quarterback every year. And I think on a points per game basis, he's been like first, third, and fourth or something. It's crazy. So it's hard to put anybody ahead of Mahomes. But I think Josh Allen and Kyler Murray, just safer than Lamar Jackson. How about that? I don't dislike Lamar Jackson. I think he's got plenty of upside. I think he could definitely get back to even number 1. But yeah, just a little bit safer, those guys.
Yeah, and that's a good thing with Allen, Jackson, and Murray. They're all pretty safe in terms of floor because of that rushing ability. And so that's what keeps them propped up there. And then Dak Prescott, number 5, he's just pretty safe overall because he's in a really good offense and he's actually a really good quarterback. I think Lamar Jackson, again, I think he could get back to MVP levels. And again, it's all about expectations. We're down on him. He had a bad season because he wasn't the MVP last year. Like, okay, yeah, I get it was less production, but still, people overreact and some people have him lower than these other quarterbacks. And I don't get it. I really think we're going to see him back to maybe not number 1, but number 2 quarterback in terms of fantasy production. All right, so now is where things get a little shaken up. I'll go through our number 6 through 12 here. I have Justin Herbert next, and then Matthew Stafford. I'll explain that in a second. Then we'll go Russell Wilson, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Ryan Tannehill, and Trevor Lawrence. I know you might be surprised to see some of those names on that list. Well, before we get to mine, let me talk about yours. You got Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, and Ryan Tannehill. Okay, so Russell Wilson, you have at number 6. I'm a little bit lower on him. Russell Wilson, I'll just be honest, he just doesn't excite me enough in fantasy. I know he's solid, he's fine, he's safe, but we're not playing it safe, are we? If you're going to play it safe for a quarterback, you're not playing to win, right? Don't we want to play to win? I'd rather than wait and take a chance on a guy who could be a breakout quarterback. So nothing against Russ, but I just don't think he moves the needle enough for me in fantasy that I'm going to draft him.
Well, let's not forget last year in the first half, he was winning people fantasy weeks, right? And then in the second half, that offense just struggled. And now everybody's like, never mind. I think he gets more back to that. I think Chris Carson being healthy helps. DK Metcalf going in his third year. I mean, you have DK Metcalf ranked as like, the top wide receiver in the history of fantasy football. So if he's going to do that, he's definitely going to need a Russell Wilson bounce back. So I just feel like I don't think quarterback is the position. Like I always talk about upside, and I still want upside with my QB, but I don't think QB is a position where you need to take risks, right? Because there's so many good ones. I think you just take Russell Wilson, get your 20 to 25 points every week, and you'll be just fine. Rather than, take a chance on a guy like a rookie like Lawrence or a second-year guy like Burrow. Just take nice, consistent, safe Russell Wilson and don't worry about it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Look, and it's not like I'm down on him. I have him as QB8, so would I draft him as a starter? Yeah, if I was drafting a quarterback in that range, which I'm probably not. But the thing with Russ is I think, we're going to see them get back to basics. Chris Carson, let's not forget when, Russell Wilson was doing his best work, Chris Carson was on the field, and all of a sudden they had no running game. They also had no passing game. But I think they realized how valuable it was to actually be able to run the ball. And Chris Carson should be healthy, right? Rashad Penny might be healthy. I think we're going to see them try to work the running backs as much as they can, keep the pressure off Russ. And yeah, I think he'll be fine. But again, I just feel like he's safe and he's consistent, but I'd rather wait, get a solid starting receiver at that range and then wait and get a guy who I think could match his production, if not exceed it, a little bit later. And so you mentioned Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow could be that guy. Joe Burrow was leading the league at one point in pass attempts and in yardage. And then, of course, he got hurt. But this is a guy that we know they're going to basically put the game on his shoulders, right? You can talk about Joe Mixon being a 3-down back or whatever. Maybe if he stays healthy, but Joe Burrow, we know they drafted him to be their franchise quarterback and they treated him like that. So I feel like with volume alone, he's got to be a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah. I don't even have him in my top 12. So obviously I disagree. I don't know. I mean, cause you look at like, I have Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, and Ryan Tannehill ahead of him. I know these guys are, old and they're vets, but they're also guys who we've seen do it time after time, who can put up those numbers. I mean, yeah, Burrow put up a ton of yards and a ton of attempts last year, but he wasn't putting up monster fantasy. Like he was throwing for 300 yards and 1 touchdown. And sure, that could change. We talk about touchdowns changing, but, Brady had 40 touchdowns last year. Aaron Rodgers had 48. Now, I don't expect him to do that again this year, but they could definitely top 30. I think Stafford can top 30 in this Rams offense for sure. In fact, he might even have more touchdowns than those two guys I just mentioned. And Ryan Tannehill, in his whole time in Tennessee, has been a top 12 QB. So again, it just comes down to I don't need to take a risk here. I don't think Joe Burrow is going to go so crazy this year that he's gonna win people leagues. And if I have Ryan Tannehill, I have no chance because I have Ryan Tannehill and you have Joe Burrow. I don't think it's going to be like that. It's not going to be like Josh Allen last year, where you got him wherever you got him and he just dominated the other quarterbacks. I just don't see that with Joe Burrow. So that's just why I have those other guys ahead of him.
I will give you that. Like Joe Burrow isn't going to have that running ability where he's going to be a Josh Allen. So yeah, I wouldn't peg him as a league winner, but I just do feel like he's going to be with enough volume to be a top 10 guy. But look, you talk about not wanting to take risk. So now you got to explain Jalen Hurts as your number 8 quarterback. And he's a guy you're drafting everywhere, every time that you can. All right, maybe not every time, but still, you're all over Hurts. He's probably the riskiest quarterback that's starting in this entire league, outside of whoever plays for the Houston Texans. So explain your Hurts ranking. Because, yeah, I have him as top 12 guy too, but not number 8.
Well, I will say I've started to back off of him in best ball leagues because of this Deshaun Watson news. But in a redraft league, assuming Deshaun Watson isn't on the Eagles in week 1, I'd be more than fine drafting him because in a 1 QB league, you should be able to find a good QB on the waiver wires at some point early in the year. So even if, you draft them and he only plays a couple weeks and then they trade for Deshaun Watson, you should be able to drop him and pick him somebody else. But when I talk about Josh Allen, that's kind of how I feel about Jalen Hurts. Let's not forget last year, nobody wanted Josh Allen because he was an inaccurate passer who just was good at running the ball. That's the knock on Jalen Hurts right now. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is going to go out there and have a Josh Allen type year. Okay, I'm not predicting that because what Josh Allen did last year was an outlier year. Like, don't expect to see that for many, many, many more years from a quarterback. But if Josh Allen can go out there and rush for 800 to 1,000 yards and score 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 touchdowns with his legs, he doesn't need to do that much with his arms to pay off this number 8 ranking, and he could easily crack into the top 5. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to finish ahead of one of those top 5 guys because I really like him, or maybe even 6. He could finish 6, right? If all those guys stay healthy and do what they're supposed to do. So this is the one time where I will chase the upside, because I think the upside is significantly more of a guy than a guy like Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence or any of these guys. I think he's got way more upside than those guys, simply because of what he can do with his legs.
All right, well then what about Trevor Lawrence? Because I have him in my top 12 because I think he could be that guy. We know he can run with the ball. He won't do it unless he has to. He's not going to, have a lot of design scramble plays, but still, this is a guy who can run with the ball. He, of course, a generational talent at quarterback, as we've heard all throughout his college career, drafted number 1. I mean, why can't Lawrence be this year's Josh Allen? And don't you think maybe he's even a safer pick than Hurts because he's got more talent around him, honestly. I mean, Philadelphia, Devontae Smith as a rookie, right? And then Jalen Reagor, who was a rookie last year and didn't really do much. That's it at receiver. There's just not a lot else out there. We're depending on his running ability. But what about Lawrence?
Yeah, I have him right behind Tannehill. So I have him at number 13. So it's not like I'm low on Lawrence. But again, we're talking about a rookie QB. Like Justin Herbert just had a great rookie season. And what was he? QB 8, I think, or something? QB 7, something like that. QB 9, which is great. It's just fantastic, especially since you didn't even draft him. And I know Trevor Lawrence will run, but what's Trevor Lawrence going to get you? Like 3, 4, maybe 500 yards on the ground? I mean, that's really good. Like you're not going to be upset about that. But is he really going to throw for over 30 touchdowns? I mean, Herbert threw for 31 last year, which was a record. Is he going to throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards? I mean, could he? Sure, but it doesn't seem likely. And I do like Lawrence, but I have him right after Tannehill. But again, a guy running for 1,000 yards and giving you 7, 8, maybe even 10 touchdowns on the ground, that's just, we saw it last year we've seen it with Lamar Jackson, with Kyler Murray, with Josh Allen. That is just a huge, huge advantage in fantasy football. So to me, that kind of upside is worth the risk.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's always that double-edged sword, risk and reward. And so, again, it all comes down to value. We say this all the time. I would rather wait until the middle to late rounds, get my quarterback that has that kind of upside. You know what? You can find, if it's a shallower league or if guys aren't backing up their quarterbacks with a second one, you could probably find somebody very valuable off of waivers, or you just back up with somebody who is a more high floor play. But yeah, absolutely. One of these league winners isn't going to be in our top 12. It's going to be somebody, that we don't even have on the radar, just like Justin Herbert was last year. We didn't know he's going to do what he did. That's why nobody drafted him. All right, guys, that's our quarterback top 12. Let us know what you think. Who's too high? Who's too low? Who belongs in there? Who do you think is going to be this year's late round quarterback that wins you your league? It's got to be Tua, right? It's got to be Tua. Okay. Thanks for watching.